This week on Oklahoma Horizon. For nearly 3 decades, Social Security produced big surpluses, collecting more in taxes from workers than it paid in benefits to retirees, but not anymore. The current surplus, now valued at a whopping $2.7 trillion, will be gone in 2033, and at that point, Social Security becomes a pay-as-you-go program. Today, we'll look at the financial side of aging. We'll examine everything from Social Security and Medicare to how and where we live as we age. Stay with us for Oklahoma Horizon.
Oklahoma Horizon is made possible by the Oklahoma Department of Career and Technology Education.
Oklahoma's investment in Career Tech provides more than nationally recognized technology education and training. It produces solid financial returns for the state's economic future. Oklahoma Career Tech, elevating our economy.
And the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping good people grow good things. And now, from the Career Tech Studios in Stillwater, here's your host, Rob McClendon.
Well, for most Americans, Social Security and Medicare are central to the compact we have with our government. We pay into the system during our working lives, then the system helps support us for however long we last. Problem is, we're lasting longer and the cost of Social Security just continues to rise. And add to that, as the baby boom generation starts to retire, more seniors are collecting Social Security payments while fewer workers are paying into the system than ever before. And it's not today's retirees that could feel the pinch. If you're a young person for whom old age and retirement seems ridiculously distant, listen up. You're paying for your parents' and grandparents' Social Security and Medicare. But who's going to pay when it's your turn? Big decisions and tough trade-offs do lie ahead. With more, here's Frank Sesno with this week's Face the Facts.
You know, Social Security and Medicare were never meant to get this big, pay this much, or take this big a bite out of the federal budget.
1935 was a year of firsts. Bob Hope made his network radio debut. The Hoover Dam was officially declared open, and FDR signed Social Security into law.
Today, a hope of many years standing is in large part fulfilled.
In the 30s, life expectancy was lower, though. There were far fewer seniors around, and no such thing as child support, disability benefit, or cost of living adjustments. Today, all that's changed. Men don't die at 60 on average, like they did in 1935. In fact, they live to more than 76 years. Women, 81 years. Now, Social Security isn't just the single biggest U.S. government program. It's bigger than the economies of most other countries. Medicare started in 1965 and now covers about 50 million Americans. Everybody over 65, plus others with certain diseases or disabilities. 1 out of every 5 healthcare dollars spent in America is paid by Medicare. That's $550 billion a year. Almost all of us kick in part of our earnings to keep Medicare and Social Security going. So when the checks arrive, you might think you're just getting your own contributions back, but that's not true. On average, we get it all back, plus a whole lot more. And there's a problem. In 1950, there were about 16 wage earners kicking money in for every 1 recipient taking money out. By 2010, there were only about 3.
If that keeps up, at some point we're in real trouble here. Most Americans want Social Security and Medicare to continue, but with a rapidly aging population, we have to face the facts.
And the facts are 1 of every 3 Americans over age 65 depends on Social Security checks to stay above the poverty line. Take a look at some numbers with me, if you will. Now, the average monthly Social Security benefit for a retired worker was just over $1,200 at the beginning of 2012, which when you add it up comes to just under $15,000 annually. Not a lot to live on these days, but nearly $4,000 above the official poverty line, which is right at $11,000 annually. But take Social Security benefits away, and nearly 1 of every 2 seniors would fall below the poverty line. Now, currently, 9% of seniors live in poverty, but remove their Social Security income and seniors' poverty rate soars to 45%. So how does that compare to years past? Well, in the 1950s, a time when we often look back nostalgically on, poverty for senior citizens was at 35%, almost 4 times as it is today at 9%. Now, that's something made better in great part by Social Security checks that have been increasing over time. Take a look at these numbers for me. In 1972, the average retired worker got a check for just over $162 a month. Now, adjust that for today's inflation, and that would be right at $873. But just as we showed you earlier, the average check for today's recipient is now over $1,200. So when you adjust for inflation, Social Security payments now average about 38% higher than in 1972. Now, not only does Social Security pay more, it pays more to more people. Seniors are not the only ones receiving a Social Security check these days. Retired workers now only make up just 64% of those receiving a Social Security check, with a price tag of about $43 billion. Now, the other 36% of Social Security recipients are made up of the disabled and their dependents, who will receive right over $10 billion, while spouses and survivors of deceased workers will receive right at $6.5 billion, while another $1.8 billion will go to the spouses and the minor children of those already collecting their own Social Security payment. So when you add all that up, almost 1 of every 6 Americans receives a Social Security check. The problem is, while the number of recipients is going upwards, the number of workers paying into the program, well, it's been going the exact opposite of the direction. Let's take a look at this. From 1972 to 2010, the ratio of workers paying into the trust fund versus the beneficiaries collecting a check fell from 3.6 workers per every Social Security recipient to just 2.8 workers per recipient now. Now, how do we pay for all this? Well, in the past 40 years, real wages have increased by about 12%, but the Social Security payroll tax that comes out of all of our checks, that's only increased in the same time period by only 2.4%. So while Congress made the adjustment to raise what seniors receive from Social Security, they did not put in any mechanism to pay for it, which is a long-term challenge for the program. According to the trust fund's own annual report, if nothing changes, Social Security will be able to pay full benefits only until the year 2033. After that, benefits will need to be reduced by about 25%. Yet, despite Social Security's long-term funding problems, the program could be preserved for generations to come with modest but politically difficult changes to both benefits and, dare I say it, taxes, or maybe just a combination of both. Here's what a think tank called The Third Way is proposing. It has developed a proposal to increase Social Security benefits slightly for the most vulnerable, trim benefits for the wealthy, and eliminate them altogether for the super rich. Their proposal would also gradually increase the retirement age to 68 for today's 38-year-olds. Not so bad when you consider that for someone my age, it's already at age 67, and eventually set it at 70 for today's 4-year-olds. Now, just by pegging the retirement age to reflect our increased longevity, we could close about a third of the pending funding gap. Now, the Third Way proposal also tinkers with the Consumer Price Index formula that's used to set annual cost of a living adjustments for retirement benefits. You remember, that's the rise in payments, which is now at about 38% above the rate of inflation. So just by slowing those annual increases, we could close another 1/3 of the program's projected funding gap. Now, on the revenue side, otherwise known as taxes, the group proposes that by 2020, the government extends the payroll tax for high-wage earners. Currently, if you make over $106,000 a year, you do not pay any payroll taxes over that mark. Now, under this proposal, that number would increase to $190,000, but also tax 100% of Social Security benefits received by high-income retirees, up from the 85% that they currently pay. Now, altogether, those revenue changes would close the remaining third of the program's projected shortfall, and Social Security is once again on solid ground for the foreseeable future. Now, the problem is, while the math may work, the politics may not. All of the options carry political risk because they have the potential to affect nearly every U.S. family while also raising the ire of powerful interest groups. But the sooner the changes are made, the more subtle they can be. Each year, lawmakers wait. Social Security's financial problems loom larger, and the need for bigger changes become even greater. Now, if you'd like to learn more about Social Security and Medicare funding, just head to our website at okhorizon.com, where each day we have a new fact of the day, courtesy of Face the Facts USA. When we return, we meet some seniors out to change the way that they live.
You're watching Oklahoma Horizon, featuring some of the good things that are happening in the great state of Oklahoma.
Well, financial considerations can often force some seniors to sell their longtime family homes, but a growing group of retirees are selling out for a completely different reason, mainly for the fun of it. A new type of senior living is about to open in Stillwater, Oklahoma, called co-housing, and we sent out our Keela Kellen to take a look.
Co-housing is a form of interdependent living and is nothing new. But what makes this particular community so special is that it is being built for active adults that are 50 years or older and still want to have fun and enjoy the company of others. With construction underway and houses nearly finished, future residents of Oak Creek Community anxiously wait to move into their new neighborhood.
The way co-housing is designed, it's designed for naturally occurring community. Community that just happens. You don't really have to work at it.
Kay Stewart is a member of this new community and says that co-housing is nothing new. But what makes their project special is the people who live here.
You go about doing your daily living, and next thing you know, you're getting very close and well acquainted with your neighbors.
Getting acquainted with neighbors is the primary goal, as front doors are built 27 to 33 feet apart, close enough to see the emotion on your neighbor's face. And the garage is being built by the Common House, allowing you to see your neighbors just as often or more than your vehicle.
We wanted to make sure that the Common House was at the center of the community. So the Common House becomes the hub, and all of the spokes come out to the pods from the Common House.
The Common House is available for all residents and has a full functioning kitchen and living space that residents intend to use on a day-to-day basis.
The neat thing about co-housing is that if the personal care aide for my neighbor doesn't appear on the schedule with he or she is supposed to appear, I, the neighbor, will know that.
Making this a neighborhood that really shows the meaning of the word neighbor.
Just for you. We're actually talking about developing a system of having buddies for healthcare so that there's somebody in the community who knows you well. They know how you want to be handled. They know who your physician is. They know who in your family to call if care is needed above and beyond what could be available through a home care agency. And that will make everyone feel more secure, knowing that if the home care aide doesn't show up, I'm going to know it as the neighbor and I'll take action to do something about it.
The main idea behind a co-housing community is to have people to rely on and to help add value to each other's lives. Pat Darlington had the initial idea to start this project in Oklahoma and is now seeing her dream come to life.
Pocket doors. The concept is not these beautiful houses or the beautiful common house, even the grounds. The idea is we are connected. We really thrive, flourish, not just survive, but flourish and come to be the best of who we are when we recognize that we are interdependent. Independence is not our goal.
Pat says that remaining independent as you age is not realistic, and interdependence among friends and family is the key to aging successfully.
It takes a lot of people to take care of people. You know, Hillary Clinton kind of popularized that term, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a village to raise an elder.
Now, As you can see, none of the homes in this co-housing community are very large, but the residents actually refer to them as being right-sized homes, because while they're smaller, they still have everything they need.
Still to come on Oklahoma Horizon, preparing for the golden years.
Well, my parents often joked that old age wasn't for sissies. And let me tell you, it's not for the financially unprepared either. From healthcare to housing, growing old can get expensive. Now, earlier, I was able to sit down with John Harned, who is the president and CEO of Epworth Villa, about preparing for our golden years. Well, John, I've heard it said that we are a society that believes that old age is kind of an option. And as much as we'd like to deny it, we're all getting older and we're all going to face some changes in our life. And that's what you do. I want you to talk to us a little bit about what you know when it comes to aging and housing.
Sure. It's clear that we live in the midst of a longevity revolution. Individuals are living far longer than they ever have. And one of the things that they really need to begin thinking about is, how do I insure against future healthcare expenditures? Because those expenses will eat up possibly large sums of their estates. So individuals currently look at their homes as the place that they definitely want to retire. But if you look to the MacArthur Foundation's study of what successful aging is all about, it involves one of the general principles of being engaged in a community that involves nurturing the mind, the body, giving purpose to one's life. And there's a reason that over the generations we've looked at our homes as holding on with white knuckles. But that's because nursing homes or poor houses were places that people didn't want to go. But now we look at options like continuing care retirement communities, where an individual can really flourish and live under that model of what successful aging would have mind, body, and spirit nurtured every day, and not have to worry about those transitions to different levels of care, or that their family would have to make those decisions. So those communities are where you would have independent living cottages or independent living apartments, assisted living apartments, memory care, long-term care, all at one campus, and then the opportunity to insure against all future losses of healthcare expense. Many of those communities ensure that it's a home for life. So if an elder were to run out of money, no fault of their own, they could reside in that community until their last day, regardless of the level of care.
Yeah, financially, how does that work?
It has a two-part, very easy financial equation. One is an entrance deposit. We call that a shelter-to-shelter parity. So they would sell their home, and they would use that money from the sale of their home to move in, and that's the entrance deposit. That entrance deposit really insures against those future healthcare expenses, but it's in parity to their home value. And then they pay a monthly service package every month thereafter, and that pays for a meal a day if they're in independent living, or 3 meals a day if they're in a higher level of care. It pays for an emergency medical technician to be on staff 24/7, to be at their needs if they had a catastrophic health event. There's an option also where they can level load their healthcare expenses in that monthly service package, and regardless if they're in independent living, assisted, memory care, or long-term care, they pay a consistent amount across the full continuum with inflation, but they don't pay for each level in large increments. It stays a consistent amount. So that's another way one could insure against future healthcare expenditures.
Do you think we have maybe some past prejudices about what retirement living is like?
Absolutely. There's many conceptions that when people think of retirement or retirement communities, they think of stereotypes of nursing homes, which individuals think back years and years ago where nursing homes had smells or certain attitudes towards numbers of people in one room. Those days are gone. We're under a new process in the United States known as a quality improvement system, where the state and federal government survey our nursing homes, and we're always looking to improve the quality. So you also look to organizations if they're nonprofits, because a nonprofit is there to reinvest any income back into its residents, who are its customers, their employees, and the greater community around them. So retirement communities have changed in a wholesale manner. One, because as the boomers continue to age, they're demanding more and more services. And so what you're seeing now is what's known as culture change, where not only is the architecture of a nursing home changing, so there's no longer a nurse's station or a med cart, but rather when you walk in, you're standing in the foyer of a home, and you see a formal living room and a formal dining room and an eating kitchen and a hearth room, but you don't see a nurse's station, you don't see a med cart, you see the employees dressed in civilian clothes instead of scrubs. And so they're part of the family. But then, because all the individuals that are providing care also clean and also help prepare the meals, the ratio of employees to residents is a better ratio than a traditional model of a nursing home where you had certain departments. So I get to know a person as an individual rather than being focused on the tasks of medication, meals, and baths.
I want you to give some advice to someone that is thinking at this moment, well, that's all and good, but I don't need to worry about that because I'm just some old middle-aged guy.
Yeah. Well, one of the things is, whether you're a planner or not, the aging is an ever-increasing army. And by the grace of God, we will all get drafted. And we don't want to enlist. But knowing that we're going to get drafted, there's certain things we can prepare for. So just like when you prepare to buy your first home, you live your life in a way where you're building savings so you can make that down payment. And so, you know, as a young adult out of college, you start eating ramen noodles and saving a little bit of money for that project. Well, the same goes for retirement. Not only is it retirement funds to do all those fun things of travel, etc., but possibly one of the largest expenses we will face as an individual is not just the purchase of your first home or another home, but actually future healthcare expenses. And so many individuals spend thousands of dollars on things that aren't necessarily insured, like dementia. And when you look towards the possibility of that, and as the population continues to grow, the inevitability of those future healthcare expenses, there's ways to plan for that. One way to plan is using long-term care insurance.
Which is expensive.
Which is expensive. The younger you buy it, the cheaper it is. You pay it for a longer period of time. But that can mitigate those future expenses. Or you can look at moving into a retirement community that ensures a home for life, that if you run out of money, no fault of your own, you get to stay there until the end of your days. But what's nice about that is you still remain independent. You've freed yourself from the gutters that need to be cleaned and, you know, the home repairs, etc. So you can actually travel still and enjoy life and lead a very purpose-driven life, volunteering in the community, being a docent at the museum, or the like.
And you've said this word several times as we've visited community, and that is very important for older people, and I guess really I should say for all of us.
Well, and if you think about the idea that in 15 years, 20 to 25% of the population is going to be over the age of 65, then we can really live the general principle of subsidiarity, where a community takes care of its own, where we're less dependent upon others, and imagining deploying all of those seniors throughout the community as docents or volunteers, whether it's with children and tutoring or after school or just charity projects throughout the community to, enliven the culture. And this is my love and passion.
All right, John. Thanks so much for visiting with us.
My pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
Next time on Oklahoma Horizon, when voters head to the polls in November, they'll decide a state question that has folks divided in rural Oklahoma.
There's less state dollars for everybody, so the rural areas are really going to suffer. So it's really a rural-urban issue.
But you can't always continually just keep putting things on the back of one particular industry, such as Avalorem with agriculture.
State question, 7:58 on Oklahoma Show Over the Heartland, Oklahoma Horizon. Well, we are out of time. I'm Rob McClendon. Thanks for watching. See you back here next week.
Horizon is made possible by the Oklahoma Department of Career and Technology Education and the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping good people grow good things. Thank you for watching Oklahoma Horizon.